Wait, wait, wait. Hang on. You're telling me that schizophrenia, a disorder that involves hallucinations and fixed false delusions, has a connection to autism, a developmental disorder? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. All right, I'm gonna get a coffee. I need to wake up. And then you're gonna explain to me exactly what you're talking about. All right, be right back. Okay, sounds good. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Autism-Philes. My name is Shay, and I make weekly videos on autism. Today, we're going to take a look at the connection between autism and schizophrenia. I'll bet you didn't know there were any connections. In fact, there are two. The first is comorbidity. That's a fancy psychiatrist word for disorders that sometimes occur together. The fact is that people with autism are 3.5 times more likely to also have schizophrenia than the general population. Now, if you have an autism diagnosis, then don't get yourself worried just yet. Schizophrenia almost always first surfaces in the late teens and early 20s. So if you're beyond that age, you're probably safe. The second connection is that autism is sometimes misdiagnosed as schizophrenia. That second one is what we're going to focus in on this video. Why does autism sometimes present as something that resembles schizophrenia? To understand this, let's first talk about schizophrenia. To start with, we should realize that autism used to be thought of as a feature of schizophrenia. It wasn't until 1943 that it was thought they could be separate disorders. And it wasn't until 1980 that they were officially recognized as such. You might not think of autism symptoms when you think of schizophrenia, but the two do have some features in common, such as trouble relating socially, motor function difficulties, concentration issues, difficulties processing information, problems with social communication and relationships, unusual thinking patterns. Now, take a look at this infographic, which shows that the two share genetic markers and similar neurobiology. I need to get a green screen right here. What do you think? That way I can be talking about whatever the topic is for this week and have, like, I don't know, Godzilla destroying Tokyo behind me or something like that. Anyway, moving on. Next, we need to discuss the difference between positive and negative symptoms in schizophrenia. Now, this doesn't mean good and bad. Positive symptoms are the stereotypical ones we normally think of when we think of schizophrenia. These include the hallucinations, both auditory and visual, and the fixed false delusions. The two types of delusions you mostly see are delusions of persecution, such as believing the government has put a chip in your brain to control your thoughts or actions, and delusions of grandeur. For example, believing you're a famous musician who has worked with everyone from Elton John to Kanye West, when in fact you just work at a record store. Now, please don't misunderstand me when I give these examples. I'm not making fun of the delusions and the hallucinations. Schizophrenia is a serious mental illness, and we ought not make fun of it. If you've ever known anyone with schizophrenia, you know how serious it is. Moving on, negative symptoms often resemble depression. A person might become catatonic or near catatonic. I've never personally seen truly catatonic schizophrenia, but when I used to work with this population back in Pittsburgh, I would see people who would sit in a chair all day, barely moving and basically doing nothing. Sometimes they drool on themselves, and often they pay no attention to their hygiene. For example, they may not shower or brush their teeth or hair. The men may not shave and sometimes grow really unkempt beards. If they're also hearing voices, a positive symptom, you might see them talking under their breath. Now, how does that compare to autism? Well, here's something I sometimes do.
In this recreation, you see me lying on the futon, staring at the ceiling, talking to myself, and stimming. Now, the particular stims you're seeing here aren't necessarily always the ones that I would do for real, but this is just an example.
I'm sitting here in front of my movie collection just to give you something new to look at. The problem with running a YouTube channel out of a small studio apartment like this is that, you don't have a whole lot of different places to film, so you keep seeing the same scenery over and over again. That's why I sometimes will do outdoor shots so that you can have something else interesting to look at. Anyway, so what you just saw isn't exactly as I described with the negative symptoms, but it's similar. I'm lying on the futon, doing essentially nothing. I am staring at the ceiling, similar to how a person with schizophrenia might stare into space. I'm not hearing voices, but I am inside my head. In fact, that's the appeal of this behavior, being in my head. Sometimes I'll do this for around 15, 20 minutes, but other times it'll be more like an hour. Now, I live alone, but what would you think if you saw this? Another thing I'll sometimes do is pace around my apartment talking to myself. What's really going on here is that I'm having an imaginary talk with someone, giving an imaginary speech or monologue, or talking to myself about something so I can better understand it. Again, what would you think if you saw this? Am I hearing voices? Or responding to internal stimuli, as we say in inpatient settings? Do I have schizophrenia? Nope, autism. The self-talk is actually a pretty big symptom for myself and other autistic people. If you ever listen to Hunter Hansen, he talks about that too. I'm good at shutting it off or toning it down when I'm around others, though. Masking, as we would say. I'll have to do a future video on masking. Okay, okay. This is all starting to make sense to me now. Continue, please. And as we saw earlier, some people with autism can have unusual ways of thinking or believe in strange things or what most others would perceive as strange. Again, this is similar to schizophrenia. Some folks, for example, think I'm very strange to believe in things like astrology, tarot, extraterrestrials, past lives, and other paranormal phenomena. That's not exactly the same as a delusion, but some might hear these beliefs and think I'm not right in the head. I have also been known to get a little paranoid at times, especially when I was younger. Not quite like what someone with paranoid schizophrenia would experience, but I have had my moments of thinking others were out to get me. In addition to that, some people on the autism spectrum have trouble keeping up with their hygiene, or just dislike doing it because of sensory sensitivities. If you'll recall, when I talked about the negative symptoms, an undiagnosed autistic person skipping brushing their teeth or hair may very well be mistaken for someone with schizophrenia. Combine that with the fact that in both autism and schizophrenia, you sometimes see what psychiatrists call flat affect. That just means a blank facial expression. Autistic people are sometimes accused of being emotionless because they display flat affect. Sounds a lot like someone with the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, right? Think back to that example of the person sitting in the chair all day. Now are you starting to see why autism might sometimes be misdiagnosed as schizophrenia? Not only do they have similar genetic and neurological factors in common, but they also sometimes present very similarly. So, to sum up, people on the autism spectrum are 3.5 times more likely to develop schizophrenia than the general population. Autism is sometimes misdiagnosed as schizophrenia because the two sometimes present very similarly. Both can have difficulty socially, both can have odd ways of thinking, and both can sometimes believe unusual things. People with autism may sometimes neglect hygiene as those with schizophrenia, and autistic self-talk can be mistaken for responding to voices in one's head. Furthermore, the two disorders share similar genetic markers and neurological structures. Well, that's all the time we have this week for Autism Files. Please like, comment, and share this video with others. If you're not a subscriber, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to never miss a single video. I'm an Autism File, and I hope you are too. Thanks for watching. Bye. What are you doing here? How long have you been standing there watching me sleep? It's kind of creepy, you know? Oh well. I needed to get up anyway. What? Oh, this? This is my weighted blanket. See? I love it. It's this one's from a company called Muka, and I got it off of Amazon. You can too, by the way. It's still there. In fact, I will leave a link in the description of this video in case you want to click on and get your own. It's a really great blanket, and weighted blankets are, great for people on the autism spectrum. Actually, even a lot of neurotypical people nowadays are getting them. They're wonderful. I swear I sleep so much better since I got this thing. I sleep better with it. I don't sleep with anything else except my weighted blanket now. So if you want to get one, click on the link in the description, and that'll take you straight to the Amazon page, and you can get one of your own. And if you do happen to buy one, guess what? You're going to be helping this channel. So please take a look if you're interested, and get yourself a weighted blanket.